Well, hello, Exegetes. Welcome back to Second Kings. Today we'll be talking about chapter 18, verses 1 through 12. Which is kind of a large section, large chunk. Sorry. Maybe I should have stopped at 9. But in any event, we'll read through 12. But this is we're starting to get to some really interesting and exciting parts in terms of the history of Israel. We're going to talk about Hezekiah and Josiah. The next translation after this one is a really interesting one about the siege, about Sennacherib and the destruction that happens in 701. So in any event, we're kind of on the downward trajectory in terms of Israel and Judah, even though Judah is about to come into contact with their two really only truly good kings, according to the Deuteronomistic historian. So this text is full of Deuteronomistic history and the Deuteronomistic lens, which you would hope to find in a king like Hezekiah. So, in any event, here we go. 2 Kings 18, verse 1. Vayehi bishnat shalosh. So, and it was in the year of 3, in the third year, Le Hoshea ben Elah melech Yisrael. So the third year, here's our Zakif Katon, right? To Hoshea, the son of Elah, Melech, the king of Israel. So here we have, our one of our last king of the northern kingdom. And here's our Athnak here. So then Malach Hizkiah ben Achaz Melech Yehuda. Now this looks like Melech, but before you get too fast there, look at those vowels. That's Malach, which is a call perfect, right? So this is the verb to reign. So reigned, Hezekiah, our subject comes after our verb, right? And here's Hizkiah. Now, if you just look at his name there, sorry, a sneeze. Some pollen out there today. If you Hizkiah, you can see that comes from Chazak, right? Chazak Yah. So Yahweh is Chazak. And then Ben Achaz, his dad, Melech Yehuda, king of Judah. So he began to reign. That's that call perfect of Malach. So he started to reign, or he ruled. And then Ben Esrim v'chamesh shana chaya b'malko. Here's our Zakif Katon. So the son of, and this is 10, but it's in the plural. Now remember, this is a funny thing with Hebrew numbers. This doesn't occur. The other numbers don't work this way, but 10 in the plural becomes 20. So the son of 20 and 5 year. And this is it's in the singular. This is the way it's said. I mean, people in English sometimes say this too, it was 20 and 5 year ago or something like that. So here, this is the same kind of structure here. 20 and 5 years, so 25 years. Haya Milko was in the reign of him. It was in his reign. Esrim Tesha Shana. So I skipped too fast past this, but Ben, the son of, and this is the way it's someone's age is often said in Hebrew, like the son of, he was the son of 10 years. What son of 10 years or son of 20 and 5 years? That means how old you were. Again, this is another word. This is another way to say that Ben doesn't usually, even often does not mean son. It has some other use. So here, the son of years. This is just how many years do you have, or how many years old are you? So instead of using a lamed for ownership or whatever, they just use Ben. So for age. So he was 25 years old when when this bait being used temporally here, the reign of him during his reign. And 20, here's another 10 plural, Tesha, and that was 9, so 20 and 9 year, and then Malach Yerushalayim. He ruled or reigned, this is the verb, call perfect here, in Jerusalem. So he started when he was 25, and he ruled for 29 years. V'shem Imo, and the name of his mother, right, the queen mother here, we're in the southern kingdom of Judah, where this is kept track of in the book of Kings. Avi is her name, right? and her name is my father. Obviously, it's a theophoric, or I would imagine it's a theophoric name, like most names in the ancient Near East. So, like, my father is Yahweh or something, but the Yahweh part is kind of left off. So, her Avi Bat Zechariah. Zechariah, the daughter of Zechariah. Bat meaning daughter, right? Okay, so there's the kind of official record of his reign. And then Vaya'as Hayashar Be'enei Adonai. Now this is where you start to see remember they'll give you that basic information, then they'll evaluate the king, and usually that king didn't do well, right? But here we go, Vaya'as, and he did Ha-Yashar, the Yashar, the upright, in the eyes of Yahweh, Ba'enei Yahweh. So finally, wow, Kol Asher Asa David Aviv, which David did, his father. So just like, and then, I skipped here. Kol, like all, or according to all that his father David had done. So just like David. Now we know that David didn't do exactly right, but those qualities that David had, that is fierce loyalty to Yahweh, and the ability to receive criticism. And take it and perhaps even change. Hezekiah is going to confront both of those things, or to demonstrate one and confront the other in his reign. And he really is, he's not going to respond exactly the way Josiah does. Notice that Josiah and Hezekiah respond in different ways to the criticism of their reign. But Hezekiah does respond, he does listen, it seems. So we'll come to part of the problem the next session. So, hu Hesir et ha-bamot Vashivar et ha-matzebot. And so we heard in the previous verse that he did follow the ways of Yahweh, and so here's what he did, right? And then who, or he? Hesir. This comes from sur, which we've seen actually a few times in the last few sections that we translated. But sur, to turn aside. So here's the hifel, to make turn. So he turned aside, or he made turn, or he took away, like pushed away, at ha-bamot, the bamot, the high places, the local shrines, basically. Vashibar, and he broke, here's a PL, perfect, at ha-matzebot, the matzebot, which are the standing stones. This is a Bronze Age Canaanite religious tradition and practice. We find this wherever people have dug up the Bronze Age strata in the land of Canaan. So in any event, this is kind of it's still going on in Hezekiah's day, right? And v'karat et ha-asherah, and he cut the Asherah. Now this is again this maybe a pole, something that looks like the menorah, maybe a tree, a highly stylized tree perhaps, that represents Asherah, a goddess of the ancient Near East, but also a goddess that seem to be very popular throughout the history of Israel and Judah, but not at least in this form for Yahweh. So the Yahweh, remember, displaced Asherah into the temple as the menorah, it seems. So at least that's an argument that I've put forward. Vakitat Nachash ha Nochoshet Asher Asa Moshe Ki ad hayamim ha hema hayu b'nei Yisrael makatarim lo. And here's our Zakif Katon, so I'll stop there. And he smashed, beat into pieces, Nachash, the serpent, the bronze one. Now notice these roots, right? So bronze and serpent have the same root, which is fascinating. Bronze and serpent are linked ideas. There's some crazy stuff, rabbit trails we could go down here with metalworking and the God Yahweh and the ancient Near East, and the kinds of people who are assigned like bronze and metalwork, who seem to be mostly nomadic peoples who are understood to have magic rituals that involve snakes. Anyway, all this sounds a little bit crazy, but also a lot of this stuff shows up as like something that Israelites do. So like Moses and the snakes, and here the bronze serpent in the wilderness and so on. It's all to say there's some really interesting religious history stuff that we could get into here, but just pay attention to this this object here. So smashed into pieces the bronze serpent, Asher Asa Moshe, which Moses had made. For until the days, those. So until those days, this is the third masculine plural pronoun here. Until those days, they were, the children of Israel, or the Israelites, were offering up incense. This is a PL participle. So we have our root here, katar, which means to make something smoke. Then we have the PL form, or to smoke, whatever. And so the PL form here, the PL participle, the ma, PL participle prefix with our schwa underneath in the plural. So the Israelites were making smoke to it, lo, to it. Vayikra lo, and they called it Nehushtan. That was its name, Nehushtan. So Nehushtan, it comes from, of course, Nahash and Nehoshet, serpent and bronze, and it has a name. So this thing, this is part of the context question today. You can go and just look at this, right, and say, what in the world are we looking at here with Nehushtan? And where did that come from? And why bronze and serpent? And why smash this thing if Moses made it? And what were they doing all that time with it, right? So there's lots of good questions to answer there. So, Yahweh Elohei Yisrael Batach, in Yahweh, the God of Israel, he trusted. Now notice here that Yahweh is still being depicted as like Israel's God, even though Israel, the northern kingdom, is destroyed. So there's this association, of course, with Judah and Israel, but the Israel is still used to describe the whole. This will kind of, it's underneath, I think, that yearning you see in chapter 17 for the people of the northern kingdom. It's kind of it's angry at them for, in the view of the Deuteronomistic historian, kind of abandoning worship of Yahweh, but also there's this kind of like, why would they even care, right? Because they want them to rejoin so badly. And then this verb here, batach, you might want to look that one up. It's a really interesting one. So there's a great deal in New Testament scholarship about pistis, meaning faith or belief. What does that mean, right? Having faith in Christ or of Christ. And here, batach is an interesting one to take a rabbit trail down. So, va'acharav lo haya kamohu b'chol malkei Yehuda. It's not good tone, so I'll stop there. And after him, there was not like him in all the kings of Judah. So no one was as good as him. Va'asher hayu lefanav. So and there was, so Asher and whoever or whichever was lefanav before him. So no one was like him after him or before him, right? It'd be interesting to look at these kind of statements, right, about Hezekiah and Josiah, which is greater and who was better, who did these things more. But in any event, it's the trust. That seems to be the important thing for the Deuteronomistic historian. So, Vayid Bak, and this verb here, debak, really interesting, important one to look up. It shows up in Deuteronomistic texts like Jeremiah in really interesting ways. Jeremiah and the loincloth. So, Vayidbak b'Yahweh lo sar me acharav. Here's an athnak, I'll stop there. So, and he clung, he held very tightly with Yahweh. He did not turn. Here's that sur or sar again, and this is just a call perfect, right? Middle week. And he did not turn from after him. Right, I mean, the metaphor of the way, life is a way, and so he didn't turn. Vayishmor mitzvotav. This is a vav and then a holem. How do I know that? Because this is the word mitzvot. It just occurs a lot in contemporary Jewish culture too. This means a commandment. It's a mitzvah, or it's the mitzvot. So the idea of a commandment. So and he watched over or kept the commandments of him, his commandments, which tzivah, and there's that same root. This is a root where he will say the vav, asher tzivah, and which Yahweh commanded et Moshe, to Moses. So these is hearkening back to those the actual law of Moses. V'haya Adonai imo b'chol asher yetzei yiskil. And I'll stop here for the athnak. And was Yahweh. So Yahweh was, just to call perfect here, and Yahweh was imo, with him. And remember, this idea of with him, you should look, think when you hear that Yahweh was with him, Yahweh was with her, etc. Think about Moses and Joshua. This is very Deuteronomistic language, but it's also language about kind of God's special belonging with the people who radically trust in God. So in any event, this kind of God was with them. God is with you. Exodus 3 is all of, the revelation of the divine name is all about this. So Ehyeh asher Ehyeh, I will be whatever I will be. The other time that Ehyeh occurs in chapter 3 of Exodus is when God is saying to Moses, I will be with you. So some have suspected that the divine name actually is like kind of a modified form of I will be with you. So in any event, this is very Deuteronomistic, but also very kind of a law-based, kind of focused on this kind of the Torah and Moses, the story of Moses. So God was with him, Hezekiah, B'chol asher yetze yiskil, in all which he went out, like whatever he did, wherever he went out, in everything that he was doing, he prospered. This is also this verb can be found in lots of places in wisdom literature. In Psalm 1, and everything they do, they will prosper. It's more than just financial success, right? It's about kind of, there's a wisdom element to it, being prudent, being wise, and so on. This is a hifel here. The root is sakal, so here's our infixed hirek yod. Here's our prefix yod, and then our hifel, short a class, our patach, underneath our performative. So vayim rod b'melech Ashur velo avado. And he rebelled. Here's our verb marad. Vayimrod. And he rebelled with the king of Ashur. And this is our way of saying in Hebrew against the king of Ashur. They're using the bait there. He rebelled with, right? He rebelled against the king of Ashur. And he did not avad him. He did not serve him. So Hezekiah refuses to serve. This is going to get him into some hot water, but also this is a thing that the Deuteronomists like, right? Deuteronomistic kind of circle, the Yahweh alone circle. They don't like alliances. Hu hika et Philistia, Philistim. So here's our Philistia, right? Philistine, the Philistines. Ad azah ve'et gavu leha. Here's our Athnak. I'll stop there. So he hika. This is our root naka, where just the kaf remains, right? So here we have the hifel prefix. This is a hifel perfect. And then we have this is actually the third root here. So the second and third root letters exist here, although it's tricky to tell, right? Whenever you have a comma's hey, if is that part of a root or is that an ending? So that if you have a lot of hays and all you have is a kaf, you're probably looking at naka, to strike. So, and he struck down at Philistim, the Philistines. Who does this remind you of, right? That's the big question here. Ad Azah, from Gaza. Azah is Gaza. To, and its territory, and the territory of her, right? Mi Migdal Notzrim ad Ir Mibtsar. From the tower, Migdal, Gadal means big, right? Great. So Migdal, that's a noun meaning like the place. Usually mame nouns have something to do with the place associated with that idea. So the concept of greatness, place, a great place, a tower. So from the tower of watching, here's a call participle from natsar, which just means to watch. Here's our oim, our noun ending, right? And our holam, or here a holam vav. It can be spelled either way, but here's our call participle form. Remember, a holam or a holam vav after our first radical. That's our call participle form, a call active participle. So here we have the from the tower of watching to the city, the fortified one. It's a noun, the fortified city. So this is like a fortress coming from the root batzar. So anyway, yeah. So the Philistines, all of Gaza, right, from the watchtower to the fortified city, they took on the edges of the land, right, to the center of it. Vayehi ba shana ha ravi'it lamelech Hezekiah. So, and it was in the year the fourth one, Rivi'it. This is an ordinal number, right? And here's the feminine singular form. The fourth year, Ravi'i, is the kind of basic form here, to the king. So here's possession. In the fourth year of the king, now remember, Ben is how you say like the years, how many years old you are. Lamed means how many years are within some kind of span of time that's being measured by you. So in the fourth year to the king, Hezekiah, so in his fourth year of reigning, of ruling, he Hashana Ha-Shavi'it, there's a Zakif Katon, it is the year, the seventh one, so it's the seventh year, Le Hoshea ben Elah melech Yisrael, of Hoshea, son of Elah, the king of Israel. So this is just about time and kind of setting up expectations about when the next story is going to begin, and they're trying to be careful about telling us when. So the northern kingdom hasn't fallen yet. We jump back and forth in time when we focus on kingdoms here in the book of Kings. Allah came up, Shalmaneser, Melech Ashur, al Shomron, Vayatzar Aleha. So he came up, Shalmaneser, this is a subject coming after, right? Shalmaneser came up, the king of Ashur, upon Samaria. And sometimes when al can be used like against, if you're talking about a fight, against Samaria. And he besieged it. This is from the verb tsur, which means to bind, to tie up. So he tied up upon it or against it. And this is Ha, the city, her. Vayil Keduha Miktseh Shalosh Shanim. Here's my Zakif Katon. And he took or captured, lakad, to capture, and he captured it. And this is actually a plural, they captured, meaning the armies of Assyria, but it's also referring to Shalmaneser, right? So they took it, the city, from the end or the time, this is a way of maybe saying at the end of or after Shalosh Shanim, 3 years, years 3. Bishnat Sheish LeHezekiah, in the year 6 to Hezekiah, he Shanat Tesha LeHoshea Melech Israel. It was the year 9 to Hoshea, the king of Israel. Nilkadah Shomron, he captured, or it was taken. This is our nifal, perfect, from lakad, to capture. And this is a feminine singular because it's a nifal, so the subject is going to be the thing that was taken. It was taken. You could think about theological reasons why they might want to say the nifal here, whatever. Like, Yahweh really was the one that kind of handed it over. Shalmaneser isn't the active verb here, but whatever. But for some reason, they're using the nifal here. It's a passive verb, and so it's the feminine because it's the city. So the city is being taken, and there's a subject, Samaria. So Samaria was taken. Vayegel Melech Ashur et Yisrael Ashura. And he carried off into exile, right? This is from Galah, that third hay, that we lose the third hay here when we have it in the Vayic Tol form. That's called apoccupation of the hay, or cutting off the hay. So, and then they were carried off into exile, or uncovered, or removed. The king of Ashur, so the king of Ashur does this, he removed into exile, et, the subject, the object, Yisrael. It took Israel into subjugation or exile. Ashura, Assyria words, right? Here's a directional look out of hey. Vayan chem b'chalach u v'chavor nahar gozan va'are mada. Or Madai. So, and he led, this is from Nacha, you'll find this also in like Psalm 23, and he led them he led them away to, placed them, shepherded them to Halach, a place, and on or with the Habor, that's a river, the Habor River, the river of Gozan. So the Habor, the river of Gozan, so a place, right? And the cities of Madai, the Media, which is far away from Israel, and even to the east of Mesopotamia. Al Asher Lo Shamu B'Kol Yahweh Elohim. Upon, and sometimes al can mean because of. Al Asher, because of that which they did not hear or listen. B'Kol, with or to the voice of Yahweh, the God of them, their God. Vaya'avru et Barito, and they transgressed. Also interesting because this is the same word that means Ivrit, Hebrew. It's also the same word that means to cross over, like they crossed over the Red Sea, but here it means they transgress. It can mean all those different things. And they crossed over Barito. So here's being exiled and crossing over, not the river, but crossing over their covenant. Transgressing it, breaking it. Et kol asher tzivah, which had been commanded, Moshe, all that Moses, the Eved Yahweh, and here's our Athnak, all which Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded. So here's the subject, right here, Moshe, in the verb tzavah, all which Moses had commanded. Velo shama'u, velo asu. They did not listen, and they did not obey. And here we have our Petuma, kind of a big division here. Okay, so there's a lot to work with in this section. I'll go ahead and stop here, but we're going to move slowly on past this point because the next verse, of course, begins a massive problem. It's been set up here that the northern kingdom is going to fall, but then the southern kingdom is going to actually suffer quite a bit. This is the terror of 701 BC when every city in Judah except for the city of Jerusalem was destroyed. Right? Remember, there's two major 8th century crises that Isaiah the prophet lives through. One is the 734 crisis, the anti-Assyrian alliance that Damascus or Syria allies with Israel, the northern kingdom. Pekah, the son of Remaliah, right, in Isaiah chapter 7. And they come and try to besiege Jerusalem and try to force them to join the alliance against Assyria. And Ahaz, the king of the southern kingdom, refuses to join with the Syrians and the northern kingdom, but also becomes a vassal of Assyria. And Isaiah said, don't do either of those things. Well, here we're going to see Hezekiah's response. And the prophet Isaiah is actually going to pop into the book of Kings. So this is going to be quite fascinating for all of us, I think. I hope. And I'll see you